prison people, 'cause we're coming down your street. Not lie down, sticks and stones will break our bones, but we will not lie down. We will not lie down. We will not lie down. Sticks and stones will break our bones, but we will not lie down. We will not lie down. We will not lie down. Sticks and stones will break our bones, but we will not lie down.
So often we remind the developers, we remind the mandarins in Dublin City Council, we remind Dublin City Management, and we remind everybody else who's been involved in the disgraceful letdown of our history in this street over the many years. And we remind them again today, this street is not for sale. This street will not be auctioned off on our watch. Each and every house behind me bears witness to history. Each and every house along this terrace from number 10 all the way up to number 25 was occupied and held in 1916 in the name of the Irish Republic. It was held in your name, it was held in my name, and it was held in the name of future generations, and it will not be given away on our watch. "16 years ago today, 16 years ago, Dublin City Council gave permission to demolish this terrace in its entirety. We can only conclude that 16 years ago today, city planners had no knowledge of their own history. Well, they can't claim that now, can they? Because through a sustained campaign for 14 long years, we have made it loud and clear, we are not going to have another wood quay in this city in our time. We now expect you to do your duty. We now expect you to defend the historic centre of Dublin. The terrace of houses behind us here became the last headquarters of the Irish Republic, in the Provisional Government of the Irish Republic in 1916. 5 of the signatories to our proclamation, 5 of the signatories spent their last hours of freedom in every one of these houses before they were dragged out to their execution in the Stonebreakers Wall in Kilmainham. So don't tell us that one house is more important than another along this terrace. All of these houses are important. They all bore witness to history, and they're all of equal importance to us, the people of Ireland. We have made fantastic gains through the campaign over the years, to ordinary citizens saying no to the gross plan to turn this hallowed ground, this sacred ground, into, of all things, a Celtic Tiger shopping centre, run by the sort of people who dragged the economy of this country down into the sewers, left us with a country wrecked economically, and they've the brass neck to tell us what their next plan is for this area. Well, you can have all the plans you like, but one thing's not for sale. Moore Street on the battlefield site is not for sale to anybody. And the latest proposal is Project Jewel. I kid you not. They consider the Dundrum Shopping Centre to be the jewel in Mr. O'Reilly and Chartered Land's property portfolio. Dundrum Shopping Centre is considered a jewel in the crown. This is the jewel in the crown of Chartered Lands planning development, except they're not going to develop it anymore. They're now going to hive it off, called Project Jewel. They're going to auction it off. They're going to auction off our history, they think, to the highest bidder. What a gross distortion of our history. Where do we stand? Where do we stand on the Republic that was delivered in 1916? And where does that Republic stand today? Who's going to stand up to the developers, the bankers, and the compliant politicians? We have to take this opportunity to commend the politicians at local government level, led by Sinn Féin, supported by Fianna Fáil, the Green Party, People Before Profit and Independence. They said no to an appalling plan to land swap the National Monument for the last two houses on the terrace that are still ours. Treating the National Monument, designated in honour of the men and women of 1916, our golden generation that we have not seen since, in a horse trading exercise, reducing their bravery and their courage and their sacrifice to a horse trading exercise. We'll give you these two houses for the National Monument. And if that's not good enough, we might add in another one. And we might give you number 10, the first house in the terrace occupied volunteers. The leaders of the 1916 Rising spent more time in number 10 than they did in any other house along the terrace, but it's to be levelled to make way for a shopping centre. Can you think of a more disgraceful plan to have for this historic site in Dublin? This is sacred ground. This is the ground upon which this republic was built, and we intend to see it preserved and held in trust for future generations. Go Míle Maith.
That it's the people's history, and it's very important that that is part and parcel of what this whole place is about. That maybe it's not the best idea in the whole world to build another huge big shopping centre across this area. And that sale, the next process of that sale is starting tomorrow. So this campaign is going to really have to crank up and be much more effective at stopping this wholesale destruction and selling off of the rich and wonderful heritage that we have here in Moore Street.
It's great to have musicians willing to donate their time and their talents free of charge like this, because this isn't exactly a money-making competition. In fact, he's just found out it's free. In fact, we're actually against money. We're in competition with money-making people, so that's why we're here, to save this terrace, to save this history, and save this market as well. People often forget that it's a market. It's a livelihood for small businesses here. It's a livelihood for people, and it was a livelihood for a lot more small businesses that have been chased out over the years.
At our last AGM, a motion that was put forward by a relative, Jim Connolly, who's here, was unanimously supported by the Relatives Association to save Moore Street and protect Moore Street. I suppose you could say we have a vested interest. Our heart is in saving this as the last battlefield of 1916. But it is something for all of us, for all our heritage, for every single citizen of Ireland. The more we've got in contact, the more we realise that the whole diaspora of Irish citizens all around the world are very interested in this. And the government are launching their plans for 2016 for the diaspora and for people all around the world. And when they got in contact with the embassies, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that were interested in 1916 and in our Easter Rising, and how it influenced their countries and influenced their people and their citizens to rise. Finland, a guy from Finland turned up at the GPO, and Finland had their revolution 1 year later in 1917. Argentina making a special case. Every single country is making a special case as to how they want to get involved in our centenary of commemorations. The following day, on the Friday evening, the GPO was up in flames at that stage, and it was falling down, and they realised that they had to retreat. There was only 3 women left at that stage, and among them there was Winifred Carney, Julie Grennan, and my great-grand-aunt Elizabeth O'Farrell. They made their retreat in 3 sections, her leaving in the last section, and Padraig Pearse left at the very last. He went around to check nobody was there, and they came out of Henry Street and then down along, making their way down Moore Lane, and their plan was to get as far as the forecourts. Well, it's very dangerous getting through the barricade, and they were being shot overhead. They made their way through this building here at the corner. In fact, Elizabeth O'Farrell fell on the road, and she was helped in by Sean McGarry into the house here in the corner of Moore Lane and Moore Street. And in there was a parlour, and there was James Connolly lying there on the stretcher in a very bad way at this stage. There were 17 wounded on that retreat, and they were all, you know, they had to nurse them that night. And the others then burrowed their way through the buildings here on different floors. So it's all significant. It's not just on one floor, it's on all the different floors, and they made their way through. And there was a council of war then in number 16, where they decided then that they would have to make their surrender. And you probably know the story of the surrender then, and how Elizabeth came down first of all with a verbal message to give to General Lowe, had to make a few journeys back and forth through and all the streets around here. So this is a very significant. Do they want to come into a shopping centre, a shopping mall that they could get anywhere in the world? No, they don't. You know, and they want to come and see the unique heritage and special national treasure that we have in this area. I think if you recall the fact that that they had to surrender at those days, and they had to put down their arms, and the reason they had to do that was because there was such a loss of civilian life, and they wanted to limit the loss at that stage. The war wasn't lost, the battle was lost, but we're not going to. We had our arms around Moore Street, and there's no reason we're going to surrender. We're not going to put down our arms. You know, we're not putting our arms down. There's no surrender, and we're going to continue this on. There's no surrender, because it's not just about Moore Street, and it's not just about saving Moore Street. It's about the fact that, you know, some greedy people can come along, and for the wealth of a few, that the rest of the citizens have to suffer from that. We see what happened in Cleary's the other week, you know, when wealthy speculators, you know, put people out of Cleary's, working there for 30 or 40 years, not even able to clear out their lockers. And we don't want this happening here. We want ordinary traders to have their shops here. We want ordinary people, the street traders, to be able to shop here and have a living, vibrant city with people living here and working here and making a living out of this. And there will be no surrender, and we are going to keep our arms around the street.
Ar dyn knaip go boch toid san sper gamin rail togo is fun var fwy brach shen con glo go chun var glevre fiaktan lo fwy chun es chwyf na hi her show shalif canig aron vian Shena liefrafael, a tafigale geren, wind slow, a tinderoni queen, we void vesi, shanchir ar shinchar faster, the okvar. When Girana, when Drill, I know the hen savannah will, like Ganer Hill, on Bosch no seal, like Ganish Grell, we love na believe, shall it panic, around the
We will not lie down, we will not lie down. Hey! Sticks and stones will break our bones, but we will not lie down. One more time. We will not lie down. No way! We will not lie down. Sticks and stones will break our bones, but we will not lie down.
It's a bit modest there, he didn't tell you, he wrote that himself.